This is Rose Coleman, and you're listening From Nothing to Profit.
Welcome to From Nothing to Profit, a photographer's podcast with Matt and Kaya, where each week they talk to photographers about what is working in their business now so you can swipe those ideas and grow your business faster.
Today, we are going to be interviewing Rose Coleman, and Rose has been part of the photography industry for over 18 years. I'm going to say more than that because she's actually grown up in the industry, and I've known her forever, it seems like, and I'm so excited to have her on here. She's, as I said, she's grown up in the industry and been a part of it, but what she's done as a business owner, after her second child was born, she left behind the boutique studio business model and created a fast-paced sports photography company with her husband in 2015. She is known for her clean, beautiful work with dancers, gymnastics, and athletes. And if you follow her on Instagram, you'll see some of that amazing work. And just recently, she and her husband purchased a 5-acre homestead that they are going to live on with their 3 darling children, and they plan to create their dream studio there. So I'm assuming it's going to go back somewhat to the boutique business model, but still incorporate her love of sports photography. Is that true, Rose?
Yes, we have been looking for a piece of commercial property, and rent is very expensive. And so kind of our business model has a lot to do with just our financials, like kind of more of our decisions as we've kind of grown and evolved has been majority focused on, like, is this profitable enough? Like when we were in the large studio space, a lot of it went to general expenses and employees and overhead and upkeep of things. And as we continue to kind of move forward, and we kind of got into a spot where it's like, in 2 years, we're going to have something. And we rent only like 2 months out of the year when we need to have something. So we've always kind of known if we can get our hands in something local that has a home property, but also has a place for an exterior, like a building, a metal building, a barn, something of that sorts with some land, that was my ultimate dream. And kind of where we're at, that was very expensive. So it was like either commercial property, or just can we evolve that into having it in a space or a home? So, most of our expenses would be, linked together and just be more efficient, be more profitable. So yes, we close actually next week on Friday and move into that building. It has 5 acres, an older home that we're going to fix up, but it has 5 acres, and it has a barn because it was actually a ranch, like a horse ranch. And so there's a 40 by 60 large barn that they had stalls in, and we're going to convert that all into a studio space that we can shoot out of, so we don't have to use rent. We don't have to continue to look for commercial property.
And where are you guys located at?
We are on the southwest side of Oklahoma City.
Cool.
Yes.
This is so exciting.
So one of the things that you mentioned in your bio that we didn't mention, Rose, is something about you mentioned something about being debt-free type of thing. And you were talking about finances when you just talked a second ago. So is that something you guys kind of focus on, is definitely staying out of debt? And is that kind of your thing?
Absolutely. We have not, my husband will laugh and tell you that he married me. One of the main reasons is because I was debt-free and everyone else had thousands and thousands of college dollar, debt accrued to them. But yeah, debt-free is a big thing. Like we bought this, and we've even talked about the piece of property, it's actually a 12-acre lot of land, and we're going to parcel off 7 of it and sell it, to cut down our expenses on that, and then how we can get it actually paid off in 5 years. Like, is that a doable thing? So yes, debt-free is huge to us. It is all about the money you get to keep, I feel like, when you work, especially when you work for yourself. And so that's been a huge focus of us. So, we don't have car debt. We just have our house debt now that we, it's going to be larger, but we're like it's very, very important to us to have a debt-free lifestyle and figuring out how to get those things paid off. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Kaya makes fun of me all the time because when I married my wife, Allison, I brought lots of debt to the relationship, and Allison brought 0. And Kaya refers to me as the ultimate catch because I definitely married up in not only looks, but also obviously in the financial world as well. So,
Uh-huh.
okay. So
Yeah.
Rose, real quick, kind of tell us what your expertise is or what you're known for. Kai talked about it a little bit, and I've been on your website and seen some of your dancing pictures and stuff like that. But tell me a little bit about what you're known for.
So I would say that I'm known for shooting athletes and shooting sports. I come from a big portrait background, and I absolutely love and adore. But in the last few years, it's all been athletes. So we do a majority of dancers, gymnastics, volleyball players, anything that's a club level sport, which in my world, there's either little leagues, which are just the masses, of like t-ball players. Then there's club, which is a higher level, like a parent is going to spend more money to put your kid in a club sport. And we focus on that. And then you have high school, junior high levels of the same kind of things. You could be a baseballer at high school, you could be a baseballer in a club, or you could be a baseballer in a little league. But we focus on club because there's generally about at least 150 to 350 most often in a club sport. And those are people that have already, their parents are already paying a higher dollar to have their kid be in there. So, they're already invested. You're going to get a sale from that. And they all want photos because they're invested in this. It's just kind of the nugget we go for. So we shoot a lot of those. I do a lot of dance work. My parents have a dance photography business. I still help them quite a bit with that. And a lot of gymnastics, a lot of volleyball, but club is really what we're known for and going for.
And so you don't photograph like high school sports or little league. You kind of avoid that and you're just focusing more on the club.
Yes, we don't do any little leagues. We have done one or two in the past, and I've regretted it every time. We are not set up because it's really important to us to operate as efficient as possible. Between Tim and I, we have a few people that will work contract for us to make an event happen. But most shoots I can roll out with myself, my husband, and one other girl. So it's like we shoot, he sells, and one girl shows. So we try to target athletes and clubs that we can fit that and run as efficiently as possible within our business. And that is keeping it as minimal as staff as we possibly can.
So when you go out to a club, how many people are you photographing? Sorry, I'm just super interested in this business model.
Yeah. It is really unique because there's not a lot of people that I guess educate on club photography. So it's been a big eye opener for me. So when we roll out to a club, like for instance, I can do a good sized volleyball. I can shoot about 11 teams in an evening from about 4 to 7:30. And each team of those is going to have 10 people on there. So, anywhere roughly to about 120 to 150 kids, depending on how many we squish in there. And I can do that in a night. And we shoot and show and sell that same night. Boom, 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 right together.
That's so interesting to me because I've been looking at doing some more volume stuff and figuring out what that looks like. And I think it's so interesting that you've niched it out and just say, hey, we do clubs, because you're right. You can do little leagues, you could do all the high school sports and everywhere in between. And you've kind of found okay, clubs is where it's at because the parents are invested and they've paid extra for the kids to be in there. They probably have, a couple uniforms and stuff like that. So there's already this culture that the money is flowing when you're in club. And I think that's just super, super smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
A couple uniforms is definitely true.
Yes.
My soccer playing son has 3 different uniforms and he forgets them, and then we get in trouble and all kinds of things. So,
and they're expensive.
Oh yes,
they're very
and
expensive.
So having pictures in them is something that's valuable for sure.
Absolutely.
So Rose, just going back to that, are you the main shooter then for the club events?
Yes, I shoot everything.
So yes. Your husband is just the male model at the shoot. He has the same job I have, where he just shows up and looks good, right?
Absolutely. He handles the questions. He is the schmoozer. It definitely fits into his strengths. He loves connecting with people. He could make a friend with a wall very easily. He just he is that person. They ask me about an order or paying a certain price, and I'm like, go to Tim. I'm like, he'll handle it for you. I don't want to handle that. I don't want to hear your story of why you don't want to order tonight. No.
That's awesome.
Go to someone else, not me. Yeah.
You're such a bleeding heart, Rose.
Oh, and it just makes me nervous. I'm like, I feel your story, and yeah, I want to make do. And he's just like, no, yeah, you're gonna order tonight. You're gonna see him. You're gonna order him tonight, right now. Dun dun dun. Like he handles that very well. So yes, I do all the photography.
That's awesome.
That's great. So Rose, being in the business for as long as you have and seeing it from, from your mom being a photographer to being in a family business to now running your own portrait business, tell us the story of what is working now for you, or share one of your greatest ideas that you've had to date and how you've turned that into a success. Either way.
I probably could meld the two together. So when we decided, after I had my second child, I took a year off and I did a handful of sessions, but I really did not end up thinking I was going to get back into photography. I was just like, what's working?
Really?
Yeah, I did not think I was. I
did not know that.
a part-time job at our church in ministry, and very part-time. And when we had my daughter, I was working all the time, obviously working with and for my parents. And I was kind of working all day, going home at night, eating, schmoozing, talking, put your kids to bed. And I would go right back to work because I lived right behind our commercial. I bought a house right behind our commercial space. So I would go back there and I was working till midnight. And it was a good year. And I mean, right before I had her, that I was just like, this is like, I'm working to death. I'm working all the time. And if I was making like tons of money, then I could kind of justify that. Like, okay, do it for a season, rock it hard, do it hard. But I wasn't, because obviously I was working with my family and we had like 4 or 5 employees at that time. And I was just like, I'm the person that has to say and get it done if no one else, wants to get it done when you work kind of for yourself. So when I had her, I was just like, I'm not going to go this level anymore. So I kind of obviously told my parents, I was like, I'm out. I'm done. This is not working for me anymore. And I'll help you if you need something done, but I'm out of this. I'm going to be with my kids for a little while. And I never really had a desire to be a true stay-at-home mom, but I was just like, I'm taking time out. I'm just done. Really didn't think I was going to get back into it. And then my daughter is a year, and my husband's kind of like, you got to get back to work. Like, you got to make some money. Like, we lived off your money for a long time, even though it wasn't a ton, but I mean, it still contributed to our family. And, we did a lot of things that revolved around our business, my business with my family. And I was just like, I don't want to do this the same. Like, I love studio work, but I don't want to have to get a piece of property. I don't want to be like everyone else that does these little mini sessions, at like such a cheap rate. I was like, that's so much work. I was just like, I don't know what I want to do if this is what we have to do. And then we obviously prayed about it a lot, thought about it a lot. Like, you have to do something. So what is that going to be? Are you going to go into ministry? And I wasn't really feeling like both Tim and I could work in ministry together beside each other. I was just like, I don't know. And obviously there's so much potential and I have so much education in photography. Like I should, obviously God has given me this opportunity. I know all this stuff. Like I need to move forward with that. So we took some time to figure out what that looked like and bounced around ideas, because I'm kind of like an overdoer a little bit. And I was like, okay, what makes the most money? What can we do to live the lifestyle that we want to have? What can we do to not have a studio location? What can we do to keep as much money in our pocket? And I got to spend a lot of time a long time ago with Ralph Romagera in New Orleans, and I shot for him upon a lot of locations and weekends. I'd fly in and do work for him. And he was like, the people that make the most money in this business do volume. He's like, at some level, they do volume. It's not about the $3,000 sales. It's the $30 sales every 5 seconds. It's just, that's what they do. And he's like, you won't hear a lot of them because those people are too busy making money. They don't educate. And I was like, okay.
Well, yeah. And Ralph Romagera, to give backstory, he's been the president of PPA, right?
Yes.
And he has a family business in New Orleans that does volume and portrait.
Yes, he does both. And I had a great opportunity to fly down there on many occasions and shoot his proms and shoot underclass for him and do some things. And so I was just like, and at the end of the day, like, we come back to the house. Obviously, I'm with his family and got to stay with his family. And it's just like buckets of money, just like, okay, everyone has to open up the envelopes. Everyone sorts, like, we get this done tonight. And I was just like, cash, you know, and it's just like, this is how we do it. And I was just like, when we were revamping, like, okay, what are we going to do? And I was like, we need to do some level of volume. I think this is what we need to do. Right now, it's very saturated in the like family market right now. I don't think that's a way we need to go. This would allow us not to have a studio location. And so we just kind of, in October 2015, we're like, okay, we're going to build a sports photography business. We're going to try this. We're going to give it all that we got. And so that allowed us to not have a studio location except for a couple months out of the year. We don't have to have staff. We have some contract people that we can pay per job to go out and do what we want to do. I actually started with someone that I was going to, before Tim came into the business, I started with another person that was a friend of mine and kind of worked it together, and then kind of had really to make very tough decisions to let her not be a part of the business anymore. And then Tim came on like a year ago, and just constantly our decisions of like, how do we keep this efficient? How do we keep this, as smooth as possible? How do we keep as much money as profitable? Because I mean, your PPA benchmark is going to say for every dollar you need to have 35 cents in your pocket. I was like, how can we make that twice as much? That's not having overhead. That's not having expenses. That's not having employees. So don't try to do everything in the world. I'm not trying to be a sports photographer, everything. I want to go for club levels that make, $10,000 or $15,000, a job, and work those into the business. That way we don't have to, and we can keep the lifestyle that we want to have. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rose. So now are we going to take a break, Matt?
Yeah, we're going to take a break real quick because I just heard that Rose needs to count her bundles of money. Is what I heard. So we'll take a quick break and she can count her bundles, and then we'll come back and we'll find out what she's fired up about in the industry and do some lightning round stuff as well. So we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, tell me if this sounds familiar. You look at your calendar and notice you need clients now. So you do a little marketing and get some phone calls. You get busy helping those new clients. They schedule sessions, they place orders, and life is good. But once they're done, your calendar is empty again. The reason is you didn't have time to market while you were busy. Sometimes your business feels like a roller coaster. And let me tell you something, it is. And believe me, you're not alone. Photographers everywhere have the same problem. But I have some great news. Matt's business, Allison Ragsdale Photography, after years of trial and error, has cracked the code. It works so well, he's created a new class all about it. It's called Get Clients Now, a dead, simple approach to getting photography clients. Everyone at From Nothing to Profit is excited to share this info with you because this system helped Matt and Allison book hundreds of clients this year at their studio. And the best part about this system is that it's simple to set up and it works while you're sleeping. No hard selling or creepy marketing. All you have to do is help your clients answer their most pressing questions. Clients love the system and say it is the #1 reason they book with Matt and Allison. If you're interested in learning more about this system, go to photopodcast.co/simple. Matt has created a short free video that introduces this system. If you like what you hear, podcaster listeners get an exclusive discount on the full class. So make sure you go to photopodcast.co/simple. and sign up for the free video. It will help you book more clients now and create the business you've always wanted.
All right, everybody, welcome back. So we're with Rose Coleman, and we're talking about her business model where she works with sports clubs. I guess it would be club sports. And we were just joking before the break that she's found a way to make it super profitable. So along that same lines, Rose, what are you fired up about in the industry, or what are you paying attention to the industry right now?
I would say I am fired up about helping people see their dreams. I've been in this for so long, and I know so many people that have been photographers or been in this for a long time, that as I've just gone through a very intense, couple of years of me being stressed out, me feeling like this isn't working, and I mean, we had a very beautiful, big business. I mean, my largest sale was $21,000 on a high school senior. I shot, sold. I mean, I know that business model works, but for what we were doing and how we were trying to manage it, it was just for me in that season, it was just draining and sucking the life out of me. It was I'm done. And then kind of getting back into it is just seeing other people that have been in this for a long time, either make a change and get hey, you need to make more money. You're working too hard. You need to make more money. And there are things that I think people can change that, for instance, you don't have to sell everything on the planet just because the labs can offer it. We don't even use, I hate to say this, but we print everything in house. We don't do that because we like to be become like a lab is because our cost of sales could be anywhere from 4 to 8% rather than being, 15 to 25%, being super efficient. So you can work a job and then keep as much money for yourself and your family as possible. So I would say, like, I'm super fired up to see people like accomplish their dreams and like make new changes and step into new directions and just be more efficient, be more profitable. Because I think that's huge. Obviously, as we have now 3 kids, and I'm like, we need to make as much money as possible. They're expensive. Like,
Right.
kids are expensive. I was like, didn't realize, but man, my 8-year-old is like the size of a 13-year-old, and I'm like, I can't feed you enough, and I can't clothe you anymore. You got to,
Well, especially if you're going to put him in club sports.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm like, everyone's like, how old is he? And I'm like, no, he's only 8. They're like, he's really tall. I'm like, I know his grandmother's 6'2". It's just, he's going to be real tall. Like, they're expensive. And so for me, it's being as profitable as possible. Also, something I keep my eye on is just kind of imagery. I don't spend a lot of time looking at other people's stuff. There's a handful of people that I follow on Instagram, handful of people that I follow like on social media, things that I just follow because I'm like, these people are what I consider to be the best of the best. Either they're great in business or their imagery is outstanding. And like, I don't get oversaturated with the mundane of everyone or shooting the same places. I don't even really follow anyone local in my area because it just doesn't pertain to me. But yeah, just keeping up with that and what people are saying like on social media, because I think that we're going to see even more in the next 5 years that social media and imagery as far as their online presence is just changing. It's changing the way that we have to do business and how we have to sell it to people. And I'm not against change. I am for doing it, but to do it in a way that's profitable.
Okay, so let me back you up real quick because I think that was great. But one of the things you mentioned was you do a lot of printing in your house, and I think that's just going to raise a question, just a few specifics about that, like what that looks like. Are you guys printing like on inkjet printers? Just real quick, kind of what does that look like? Because I don't think our listeners have heard that very much.
Yes, we print everything in-house, like 90% of our stuff. And we print on a Fuji DX100. We've got 2 of them. So one's kind of always have 8x10 paper in it. One's always got like 4x6s in there. And we switched out with 5x7s. And I mean, the cost of, I was doing research on it yesterday, just figuring out, because we need to purchase another one if we're going to get something different or keep with the same thing. And the cost of a 4x6 is less than 20 cents. I mean, I think a 5x7 is 21 cents. And then an 8x10 is less than $1.50. I mean, when you price out the ink and the printing, the paper and everything that comes out with it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and one of the things that's really interesting about efficiency too is like when we do volume stuff, we send it all off to the lab and then it comes back and then we have to sort it. So almost like if you're printing your own, you're almost sorting and printing at the same time. And so you're like almost removing a step, which I think saves you time too, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. I mean, like, it's interesting because I can sit here and just print out somebody's order, package, put it in a little glassine, put it in their mailers. So we've got super efficient how we've got it set up. So, I mean, it's just like one step to the next step to the next step because the printer's pretty fast. I mean, and I can just package it, put it, and we've got our shipping kind of station how it is. So it just goes 1, 2, 3. So we try to only sell products that we can handle in-house. Like we even have a metal keychain maker. We've got a button machine, which is super easy because a lot of people in sports love buttons, and then peel and stick magnets, all just very easy that we can print, package, and ship like the same day. Because part of our business model is we turn around digitals 48 hours. We turn around images, prints usually within a week. So we're like super fast. So we want to be able to print it, ship it, get it out the mail.
That's awesome. All right, Kaya, do you want to jump into the lightning round with Rose and we'll go through some of those things?
Yes. So the first question we have is, what was holding you back from becoming a full-time photographer? I feel like you answered that a little bit because you actually started out as a full-time photographer, then took some time off and came back. So maybe talk about just coming back.
Coming back, what was holding me back probably was just in this business, I have not found many. I've been very fortunate with my parents both being involved in photography that they've only hooked me up with really people that I feel like are amazing image creators or really good business people. I've had those kind of wonderful opportunities. Holding me back was getting back into it and going like, as I've worked for 15 years in the boutique business model with employees, with staff, with overhead, and worked for someone else, when I do it, do I want to work all the time? Like how to balance family, and my children are little. And I think when your children get a little bit bigger, that's a little bit of a different story. But as my babies are tiny right now, like how do you balance? And I know that in my heart, I didn't want to be a full-time mom, but I did not want to work full-time. I needed a full-time income. It's like I want to make full-time money, but I do not want to work full-time hours in the kind of feeling that I did as a small child, that my mother worked all of the time. She just worked night and day all of the time. I was either shooting or she was behind the computer having to, work on imagery. And I was just like, I don't want that for my family. I really want to be infused in my family. I want my family to, get the most from obviously the Lord and what they've been given and gifted, but I want them to be, guided by me and, Tim and our home. So I wanted to have as much time with them as possible. So I would say holding me back was that, because it has to do with profitability. Like you can work to death, you can work all the time. And the more you work, you could find yourself needing more staff or needing a bigger building or needing more equipment, because it's funny because every new type of athlete we ended up doing, we had to buy almost a new piece of equipment for it. Like we did, we had to do football this year. Okay, well, instead of our backdrop, we had to buy turf. Turf was expensive. I was like, I was just like, well, that's $300, but that's $300. That's $300 that I don't get back, and we're going to have. And then we did a large team. Well, we needed more turf. It's like everything kind of led to like another little purchase. And I was like, we probably need to not do that. We need to stick with what is successful and we have all the equipment for it until we're ready to make some other moves of growing, and stepping into another little realm. And that's, it's all, so I would say just for me getting back, being profitable, having to make really hard decisions with like not doing everything, not shooting everything, but being as profitable as possible so I can spend as much time with my family as possible.
So you saw your mom, and I think most people of her generation really lived to work, and you wanted to figure out how to work so that you could live the life that you wanted to live.
Absolutely. My mom was, she's just a goer. She's a doer. She's not a person that likes to stay at home and just kind of take it easy. She worked very hard. And I learned from her that like, if you want something in life, you're going to have to work for it. She got divorced very young. She started road photography and wedding photography. And I got to see her be as broke as humanly possible and then build a business, become debt-free herself, like pay off her house, be debt-free, and then, send her kids to, do whatever they want to do. I got to see her without any help of anyone. She became that success herself. And so I know I got to see that took a lot of time and a lot of work, because obviously photography, there are some people that are just banking huge amounts of money, and there's a lot of people just making a really good, nice part-time income or barely a full-time income. There's not a lot of people that just run in at just a rockin' awesome business, but so, yeah, I got to see that, but I got to see that a little bit at the expense of, her being home. And we just kind of had to learn, you just got to live with it. This is life. And I have a great respect for her working it as hard as she worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just knew that for me, I wanted to figure out there's got to be a way to do both. There's got to be a way to do both well without having to sacrifice one or the other.
So one of my questions, because you keep talking about profitability, one of my questions is, this is an interesting question in the fact that like, are you and your husband aligned with that? Like, obviously he's going to want to make profit, but is he more of a spender than you are? Or are you more of a spender? Or are you guys pretty together on all that? Because I'm the spender and Allison is the saver. Like, I'm like, we need that. And she's like, do we really? I'm like, yes. I'm like, not only do we need a 10 by 10 thing of turf, we need hundreds by hundreds of feet of turf. And she's like, okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I am definitely the spender when it comes to equipment. I love all the gadgets, anything. Like, I'm like, this is awesome. I'll like listen to podcasts, or like when I'm editing, be watching videos and reviews of things that I want to have. And so definitely when it comes to photography world, when we're spending money, we're spending good money. We're buying high quality things. We're not getting cheap on it. But as far as our lifestyle goes, my husband is definitely the spender. We love, like, a value of ours, we love to travel together. We, took, I think, like 7 trips this past year. I mean, we love to go to Disney World. I mean, like, we spend money on experiences. Like, we don't spend a lot of money, I would say, on materialistic things, but we spend money on experiences like with our home group and our friends, and make sure they feel loved and cared for in that way. And then we spend money traveling. Like, that's just a huge value of us. So we kind of meet in the road a little bit, because, like, we had, for instance, I surprised him on Father's Day with a very small 2-night trip to Disney World with our big kids. I'm like, we're going to get up at the crack of dawn. We're going to go 2 nights, come back. And I'd planned it for September. And I was like, but I gave him the tickets and stuff on Father's Day. And lo and behold, like a week later, he's like, I've extended the trip like a good 5 days. He's like, so we're going to be there like 6 days now. And I was like, what? I had it paid for. Everything was paid for. The tickets, everything was bought. And he's like, yeah, but it's so much. Why go 2 days when you can go 5? I'm like, oh.
That conversation right there is the epitome of most conversations Allison and I have. It's like, well, why do it this when we can do it 10 times bigger? And she's like, do we really need to do that? I'm like, yes, we do.
Yeah. So I was just like, man, I had it paid for, like, it was done. And I'm like, you're going to make this. And we're not taking the little kids. So obviously the little kid's going to be traumatized in our family, because I was just taking the big kids because you didn't need a stroller with that. That was my plan. But so, yeah, I would say he definitely, I mean, we spend a lot of money together, but we spend it on experiences and stuff that's beneficial, awesome, but fun, for our family. So.
Yeah, living the life you want to live.
Absolutely.
Working so you can live the life you want to live. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so back to the lightning round. So what is the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received? Probably, I mean, I'd probably have to go back to Mr. Ralph and him saying that the people that are the most profitable are the people that do volume. I mean, that changed my life. I probably never would have gotten into volume without it, without seeing that and kind of experiencing it and just feeling like, whoa, you can. It's not all about tiny, tiny little leagues. Like, I'm like, you can make good money. So I would say that. And the second would be my mom, shoot and show. Do not put anything on the internet, and that is a crazy world right now. Obviously, like, if your parents are there, show them their pictures. And if you can't, you got to be able to make that happen. And so we have evolved in our business to still not really put much stuff online. We do if we have to, but if a parent is going to be there, we're shooting and showing immediately. So the process is still fast, but if they don't like their pictures, they reshoot it, they order right then and there, and it's done. So we don't have to walk away going, everyone on the planet is going to, see their pictures up online and then maybe order or have a very small percentage of a buy rate. We have a very high buy rate, but it's because of that. So I would say those two were the biggest that have affected my business.
So you're saying that you do in-person sales?
Yes.
With your, okay. That's exciting.
Are the parents there on photo night with the club?
Yes. At club level, parents are there. Yeah. I mean, we don't do a lot of events. It's normally high school. If we have to shoot a high school team or something of that case where parents are not going to be there because we're coming out of practice or something, then we have to do a prepaid thing where then they do see pictures up online or they can prepay at that, but they have to buy into something to be able to do that. It's not the way that I like to go because obviously you just have a higher buy rate and achievement level with that because parents are there. If parents are there, they're going to buy their pictures. Our packages are not very expensive. Our highest package, I think, is $55. So, I mean, they're there, they're invested in club. They obviously spend money to have their kid in club. We're going to show you your pictures. So they don't do anything we shoot everyone, they show it, and then they sell. They sell and then they turn in their order form with their payment, to Tim. So it's super efficient, super lean. We don't have to set up a lot of stuff, but yes, we want to shoot and show everybody.
Okay. So my question for you, actually, I have a piece of advice just to stick in here right now, is your kids are actually going to need you more when they're in high school, junior high and high school. In my opinion, when they're little, they don't really notice if you're gone all the time. Obviously you want to be with them and you're wanting that time with them. But when they come home from school, I love being home 3 or 4 days a week because they come in the door and they talk and they tell me about their day, and you don't get that time any other time. So just I don't know. As a mom, I know you're like wanting to live the life that you're wanting to live, and having teenagers myself, I'm so thankful that I can create my business so that I can be there when they walk in the door after school. So
And see,
anyway.
that's interesting because Tim and I were just, I love that. And Tim and I were just driving by the property that we had today, and we're like, what are we going to do with the barn? Like, we have an opportunity to have a studio
Oh
space.
yeah.
How do we use that during kid hours at school to be profitable,
Mm-hmm.
but without,
Yeah.
it's like, what does that look like? Does that look like starting some sort of smaller kid business? What does that look like? Is that a head shop business? I mean, like an avenue that doesn't affect our sports business, but it's something that we can do without, jeopardizing more time with our kids. I mean, like, we're thinking and praying about that a lot, because I'm like, I want to do that well, and I want to do it right, because I want to have as much time, after school when they get home as possible. That means so much to me.
Yeah. And I don't think you have to be there all the time, but just keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's another question for you.
Mhm.
Share one of your personal habits that you think contributes to your success.
Oh gosh. I asked Tim about this. I was like, Tim, do you think I have any good habits? And he's like, he's like, you're not a very habitual person. He's like, this is hard because I was like, what habits do I have? I don't know. And he's like, he thinks that I'm a very driven person. And he would say, I think one of the habits that I have, and he would agree, is just that I'm very driven. And so good enough is not good enough for me. And that can be a good or a bad thing. But I definitely think that it has contributed to my success. Absolutely. Because let's say, for general, in sports photography, there's a lot of really bad sports photographers. A lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's more bad ones than there are really good photographers. And I don't really go into people's backstories, but my story is different, obviously, because I come from a photographic portrait world, and I know how to make really good imagery without having to have really flashy composites or digital backgrounds or things like that. And the more I see stuff I see in the sports world, it's like really kind of plainly, flatly lit, athlete on a very high grungy edited background. And that is something that we have stayed away from, because I want our images to stand out on like a black or white or even out on a field, but just be dynamically lit, beautifully captured, and not edited to, high heavens. Like, I don't need it to have graphics and artistry. I mean, we do banners, we do some fun stuff, but I mean, there's only, in my world, I mean, like, you've got your Richard Sturdivants, you've got your amazing people that spend hours creating something masterful that looks real and it doesn't look fake, and then you've got in sports, a lot of people that are just like shoot and burn, drop in a green screen. And it's just to me, it's overdone. And so as my attitude a lot is, good enough is never good enough. I want to be the absolute best at what I do. I want my imagery to look absolutely the best that I can do in our area, and something that will just make it stand out. So I would say that would just my driven.
You have a habit of excellence.
Absolutely.
There you go. Might be hard to say about yourself, but I would definitely say that.
Do you have a habit on how you like your $20 bills stacked at the end of a shoot? Like,
just as long as they're hidden away from my husband. So he's like, "Where is this? What is this from?" I'm like, "Oh man, I had that
do you
for
like
a
the
vacation."
stacks like 1 inch tall, or like 2 inch tall stacks of money?
The big, my stack, the bigger the better. So whatever, the bigger the better.
Oh, I know. We're just picking on you now. So okay.
Funny.
Yeah. No.
Is there an internet resource that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Yes, absolutely. So something that I think is important to me, I would say an internet resource and a book. I like combo those two together. And I think something that is fundamentally changed the way that I see myself, how I see hiring on other people, bringing people onto our team, working with other people, is internet resources or a book that's called Strength Finders 2.0. Have you guys ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
I have not.
Okay,
I have not.
so-
Go. No.
You have not?
Oh, it's so good.
Matt, are you serious?
Kaya, oh my goodness. I stopped at Dave Ramsey. We went over this during my interview.
Oh my goodness.
Now I don't get on the actually it's funny. I love to read. I absolutely love to read. And I think that improving yourself, I don't think I'll ever get to a place where I feel like I am just the best of the best and I don't have anywhere to learn. Like, I want to be always cultivating an attitude of like humbleness, and like, there are amazing people, there's amazing guidance out there, like learn, learn, learn. So my husband has been in ministry for a very long time, and he did this test a long time ago, and it's a personality test. But what's unique about it, it focuses only on your strengths. So it's Strengths Finders 2.0, and you can read this book and you can take a test on it. What is interesting about it is, I think, especially like Kaya said, as women, it's sometimes not easy to like brag about yourself, realize what you're really good at, cultivate kind of that attitude of like, okay, I'm really great at this, and be able to say that. I think that people feel bad about that. I think other women judge that.
It's hard for some people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so this test, we took this test. I've made everyone that's like kind of worked for me take this test. My mom, I've made her take this test. It's fascinating. So it will point out your top 5 strengths. And fundamentally, these are who you are as a person, and your top 2 are your core. So mine are, I'll give you my examples. My top 1 is a maximizer. And my number 2 is achiever. So what's interesting about that is I am a maximizer in life, and I see it now that it's been identified. I see it in everything that I do. That can be a good or bad thing. So if you give me a problem, I will find you a solution, because I want to maximize the situation. Like, okay, this isn't working. And I'm like, okay, well, give me a day and I'm going to find you like 9 podcasts, 9 different things, 4 different options. I know how to sell this way. We can come up with a product that way. This is what doesn't work. I will maximize and try to figure out how to achieve it. Like in anything, even with our kids' education, like we really struggled with Trip in school his first couple of years. And I'm like, this is not working, and good enough is not good enough for me. I want him to have a great environment. Not that I don't want him to experience things and heartache and have to walk through those seasons with him. But I know that I want to be cultivating him an environment of success with teachers that are successful, to see him grow. And just what the situation we were in just wasn't a good one. And so I'm like, we need to change that. Like I need to maximize that situation. So that is just kind of how I look at everything. I get super excited, super jazzed up, and I feel like there's a way to make money in everything. Like, let's figure out how to do this. And then achiever, like achievement is it's a big heartstring of mine. Words of affirmation, big to me. And like, I want to see success in the things that I do. So back to like starting this business and getting back into it again, is like, I need to feel success in this. I need that to be financial. I need that to be with our family. I need that to affect every aspect of it, just to know that I know I'm working through some things, but I need to find achievement in it, because that just fuels me. And when you are in doing what you are made to do, what I feel like God has created those attributes in me, and I feel like He's created attributes in everyone. But when you figure out what those are, and you figure out like, you're great at this, like you are great at encouragement, you should be in some sort of role placement job where you encourage. You're great at administration. You need to be in a job where you're great at, in some way, having that kind of leadership of administration. You're great at teaching. Like, you should be in it. But I feel like a lot of people don't realize probably their highest levels of like what their strengths are. So I think that would be the best piece of advice I would give people, is just to figure out what those are. Read that book, take the test. It's like online. You can do it online. I think it's like $20 or something like that. And it will tell you what you are, good or bad. It'll tell you what your top ones are. And I think if you live and lead into those and walk that path, I feel personally that is the path that probably God has created you to be on. And when you live into that, you'll have the most flourishing life, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? My oldest daughter is a freshman at Kansas State University, and someone gifted the university that test for every freshman to take.
Wow.
I know. And so what I think is really fascinating about what you're saying is that you took that test and it validated something in you that you might have thought was a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you like to maximize things, you like to grow things, you're a big achiever. And so it made you realize that you could work on those. And so when I took the test, I was really shocked actually, because I thought I was that kind of person too, like like really like a go-getter type.
Mm-hmm.
And my first one is activator.
Ooh.
So I'm an activator, and then I don't remember what the next was. A lot of mine are like input and future, and like more like teaching myself things, and then I like to share them. But what I thought was so cool about the book, and Matt, I cannot wait for you to take it. I'm going to guess what yours are going to be
Mm-hmm.
first, but is it gives you suggestions of how to work with other people, what kind of people you work best with,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives you suggestions of what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I realized when I took that test, I'm an activator, and that means that you come up with an idea and then you're ready to do it
Mm-hmm.
immediately. And I had all these situations in my life that I had to run every decision by all these other people and through all these other processes. And so, I made all these changes in my life, and then I was able to start activating on things, and I was so much happier, so much less stressed out. So yeah, I'm excited about that book, and I definitely think that people should check it out. So it's Strength Finders 2.0, and Matt, we'll put that in the show notes, right?
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes. Along the same lines, that's kind of interesting if I can say something about something I came across that's similar to this. I don't know if any of you guys follow Brandon Burchard. He has a really interesting, he has some books out that are along the same lines. And his whole business was coaching people. And he's coached like really, really big people like the Oprahs of the world and stuff like that. And for a long time, he just did the tests where he'd give his clients tests, and then they'd become self-aware of what their strengths and weaknesses were. And that was his whole business model for a while. And then finally he was coaching some top 50 CEO, and the CEO really pushed back and was like, hey, that's fine, like you're making me self-aware, but I need to know what to do. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really interesting, like to pair the Strength 2.0 book and test with maybe some of his stuff afterwards about like, okay, now what do you do once you know your strengths, and what are some of the habits you can form and stuff like that? Because I'd taken tons of those tests, and I got to that point where I was just like, okay, that's fine. I know who I am now.
Yeah.
But now what?
Yeah.
And he did a really good job. He does a really good job of taking it to the next step, which is really cool. He has a great YouTube channel. He has lots of awesome books. I'll link a couple below and stuff like that as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Matt, I'm going to guess some of yours. I'm going to look at my book and see what they are, but I'm guessing that one of yours is input, which is one of the same as mine. Like where you like to learn about things.
Yeah, no, I'm a learner forever. So, okay.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm going to take a total tangent. So
okay.
I'm going to share something with you guys real quick that you guys will forever give me crap about. So I've become, like in the last year, I've become a big YouTuber. And so like, I just watch YouTube all the time, like more than Instagram, more than Facebook. I'm just on YouTube. So
watching things on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So this thing, this show or whatever this video pops up in my feed, and it's like the greatest ant farm ever built. And there's this guy in Canada. That literally has 2 million followers on YouTube. And he basically makes like a theatrical movie about his ant farms that he's building.
Oh, goodness. Oh, wow.
And so it was bad enough that I watched the first one that was 30 minutes, but I definitely watched like 2 more since then that have been each 30 minutes. Like,
and
I know more about ants now, like in the last week, than anybody ever needs to know about ants unless that's your job. But anyways.
So that's an example of you loving input.
Yes, exactly.
And
like
learning
I just
things.
Can't get enough education about even the most ridiculous things that do not pertain to my life. But I love educating myself on stuff like that. So anyways,
learner's probably one of your top 5 strengths, and that's good because what's neat about the book, and they related a lot to children, is like, in education, you're taught to be a very well-rounded person, make straight A's, but your kid might be really, really good at 1 or 2 things. And it was kind of like, ignore the others. Not that you can in education, but it's like cultivate a heart of what your strengths are and what you're really, really good at, and stop worrying about what you're not. Just find other people to do those things, and don't worry about that. You're not meant to be mediocre at a lot of things. You're meant to be great at the few things that God has created you to be great at. So live into that, and then you'll live, better into your destiny. So I think that's
really good advice for sure. So do you have any other books you want to share, or is that the main one? Because that's a big one, and we could leave it there. But if you have any others.
And no, I would say that was my top one. I mean, I love to read. I think that a lot of self-help books, I try to read a lot of business books, but not anyone has like hit me as much as that one does. A lot of them to me just say a lot of the same information or hit like little nuggets. I just read last week, Girl Wash Your Face, which was really great. But no, I think StrengthsFinders, that is just definitely my number one.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up right there. And is there any parting guidance that you have to give anybody, and also let them know how they can connect with you best?
Yeah. So you can find me online, social media, Rose Coleman. That is my Instagram handle. Our business Instagram handle is Center Stage Portraits. Our website is centerstageportraits.com. That is the way you can check us out. My parting piece of guidance is if you have been doing this business and you feel like it's not working, I would say to take a step back, like what I did, and look at your financials. Look at what makes you happy in your business and figure out a way to trim the fat, because it is not about how much money you gross. It is about how much money you keep in your pocket. So it's funny. I just saw somebody last week on a Facebook group, and it was like a women's Facebook group. And she was just like totally distraught. She's like, the more business I get, I've been in this for a long time. The more business I get, the more employees I have to have, the more taxes I have to pay. And she's like, I'm just over it. And I'm like, girl, trim the fat. There is a way to get back to doing what you love and to make money from it and be as profitable as possible. So you don't need to sell everything that the labs offer. You don't need to do everything, but just because you got a camera, you need to do what you love to do and do what makes you the most profitable. And if you look at your numbers and you look at the types of things that you sell, figure out the one that makes you the most and cultivate that relationship with more of those clients, because it's not about doing more. It's about living more into what, you're doing. And that is about being profitable. It's just about being profitable. And so there are a lot of options, easy ones and hard ones to get you there, and you can do. And if you just take a moment to step back and kind of just live into that and work on that and figure out what that is, or ask somebody, there are ways to trim it down in order for you to make more money and then have a better, have more success with your family and your finances and things like that. So that would be my piece of advice.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. I loved getting to know you. So when I make it through Oklahoma, I'll definitely look you up, because I think your business is fascinating, and I think you guys really have something powerful going there. And I'm really grateful that Kaya recommended you as one of the first people we brought on the podcast, because to be honest with you, I had no idea that you even existed. And now I follow you on social media and stuff like that and realize how awesome what you and your husband have built. So,
well, hopefully by the time you come down, we'll have a horse barn that has been transformed into a studio space, and we'll have a lot more land and stuff like that. You can come stay with us, and yeah, it'll be fun.
Maybe I'll just buy the 7 acres next to you guys. And then
I know. I'm like, I think I kind of convinced my mom this morning to buy it. I was like, Mother, don't you want 7 acres? Don't you want to move? And like that.
My goodness.
She's like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just buy it and then I'll put a house on there one day. And I was like, you should. That would be great.
Goodness.
Just keep the 12 acres together. Keep it in the family. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm excited that you guys are doing this. I'm excited to hear more about your podcast.
All right. Thanks so much, Rose.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rose Coleman. We loved having you on the podcast From Nothing to Profit. And to all of our listeners, we will have so many great links in the show notes to the things that Rose has referenced and we've talked about in this podcast. And we hope that you can put that to use and create profit from little or nothing.
Thank you for listening to From Nothing to Profit, a photographer's podcast with Matt and Kaya. Be sure to subscribe for more business strategy and ideas to help you create the profitable and successful business you've always wanted. See you on the next episode of From Nothing to Profit.